Excellent. Welcome, everybody. Within this Microsoft 365 feature demo, we're going to have a look on something really cool around SharePoint pages. But rather than me trying to explain what that's all about, we'll have the real star of today's show, who's Sara Cummings. Sara, who are you actually? Quick intros first.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Sara. I'm one of the Pages PMs, and I'm working on a feature where you can send news posts to your email. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's been a long time in the works, but we're so happy to get to the point where we can finally share it with you guys.
Yeah, we've been using that internally for quite a lot. And actually, the bird was flying over. Excellent. But we've been internally using that. And let's talk about the company culture a bit later on the video, because it within some companies they try to prefer not to use emails and all of that stuff. We'll come back that on a bit later. What does sending a page in an email? That's a pretty descriptive title, isn't it? That's what it is. Sending a SharePoint page in an email.
Sure, I guess it is pretty descriptive, but so when you're creating news posts, you're creating pages that you want to distribute, right? You want to share your news, you want to share it with people, and at least when it comes to the Microsoft company culture, a lot of that sharing happens in email. So what we would see happen is someone would make this beautiful news post, it's perfect, and then they go to send it out and it sends just a link. And that's sort of, come on, we can do better. And so with this feature, what we've done is we've taken your pages and we've converted them to a format that will make them readable all in one place. And you can go back to the page if you want, you cannot if you want, and your readers can see it all in your inbox. So internally, this has been a huge success. We have a lot of big fans, which means we've got a ton of testing, which has been good because this has been a complicated one to get right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're excited to get to the point where we can share it with all of you.
And I love the fact that we're spilling the beans. I love the fact that it's regardless of which device are using, an iPhone, iPad, whenever traveling, walking away, or if you have a workstation. That's English, I guess. If you're working, sitting in front of your workstation, you can get access on the article and the information. So it's your choice. So we're basically just enabling an option to access the information. It's still in SharePoint, right? So we don't actually get rid of it from there. And it's still in SharePoint, and you can think about it as when you take a photocopy of like a page in a book, you're giving people access to that page, but not the rest of the book. And so with news, where it's something that's meant to be distributed anyway, this can make a lot of sense. It could just speed up the process. If you're offline and you already have this email downloaded, you can read the whole news post. Yep, absolutely. And the beauty of this one is that if you would be printing an email and everything else, there would not be view tracking or anything within the classic email. In this case, the view tracking still works, right? So whenever somebody is reading that in email, it's actually in statistics in the page as well.
Yep. So when you have your readers open it, that you can track that over in your pages. So you can make sure that even though you're getting this engagement in email, it's still you're reflecting on your site.
That's really cool. Now we've been talking, let's actually show it. So let's jump on your screen and let's have a look on that.
All right. So here is a demo tenant we have. So it's just a test site. And I'm going to go ahead and make an made for email distribution. You can see here we're previously landed on another test that I did, but I'll do a different one. So when I go to new news post, you can now see this new category called made for email. So these are templates for sharing news as an email that look great on any device. So I'm going to go ahead and click our newsletter one right here. Once you click it, you can see the full preview over here. And you can see the mail icon, which tells you you can send it in mail. I'm going to go ahead and create my post. And so now you'll see this looks pretty much like your normal authoring experience, because it pretty much is. That is until you go and add web parts. You'll see right here, we have it scoped to made for email web parts. These are web parts that we promise you are going to look good in email, are going to look good on any device. And it's a list that we're constantly expanding. The good news is when you look at these web parts, this covers something crazy like 85% of pages. So even though we're scoping the functionality a little bit, practically it has no effect. So I can go ahead and add another web part. I'll say And then I have my page. Let me go ahead and add a title. And then you'll notice the next difference, which is the post and send up here at the top. So this is where all the magic happens. Because these distributions are meant to be sent out, we've rolled it up into one place. So once I click this button, it posts. And I get this confirmation. And so this means my news is going to show up anywhere news shows up. And now you can see I have a demo of my full distribution. Now we've taken all of our columns and we've made them into a single column that's about 600 pixels in width. And the reason we did this is so that it can look, we can send one distribution and can look good wherever you're opening it.
Yep.
So right now I'm going to send it to myself.
Wait, your name was Sara. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Yes, my name is Sara. This is not my email. All right, so now I'm going to hop over to Adele's email here, and let's update it. Sometimes these can take a couple minutes to come in, but I did, in true cooking show style, send one previously that we can go ahead and look at. Yeah. So now I've opened this one I sent earlier, test before demo.
Yep.
And if you scroll through it, here you can see the entire page. And we see a lot of cool stuff happening here. Your images look beautiful. You can see different text stylings and spacings. And all in all, we just created a page that can guarantee is going to look good in email as well.
Yep.
So now if we hop back over to our SharePoint site, or actually we can do that over here. So here is our page again. We hop right over and I go over to analytics. I can now see the view information. So this is exactly what you get for a normal SharePoint page, with the exception of your mail reads are now rolled up in page views, viewers, and traffic. We
Yep.
haven't got dwell time online yet. It's a little more complicated, but we can offer this other data. So it's all in the same place. And as you can see, this page doesn't have a lot of reads because it's a test page. But this is where you'll be able to see your audience and what an impact you've made.
That's really, really cool. Now, immediately, few questions. So first of all, why did we filter down again the web parts to a subset of web parts? Why didn't we just implement everything?
Oh gosh, if we implemented everything, genuinely, we would never get off the ground here. It's a scenario where a lot of what we have is super specific functionality that, you know, for some people is very useful. For a majority of people, like we look at how our pages are composed, and gosh, something like 75% is just text and image, right?
Yep.
And so when we think about being able to send it out, we know we can support that. So it was a question of how do we support the majority of pages without limiting the capabilities, which is why we decided to start with news on this, because we know with news pages, they tend to be simpler. People are making them to be distributed. They're not like the core of your internet site. And this was an area where we can really help authors spread their impact further without confining their functionality really in any meaningful way.
Makes perfect sense. And of course, as an example of something like Viva Engage web part, it doesn't make any sense in the news article to be sent in an email. It just doesn't. So some of those web parts are more dynamic and they're basically intended to be used. So
yeah, it's like we're playing a funny game here where with our web parts, we're allowing like full internet site capability for you to add to any page, but in the scenarios like a news post, you're not going to use that. And so this is an experiment. This is the first way that we're trying this to see if people like it. And by sort of scoping down capabilities a little more, if we can actually offer more functionality.
Yep, absolutely. Now the second question what I have also is that if you have already created content, so what is the magic related on I need to select a email targeted page? Any chance I could actually flip an existing page to be email targeted as a news article if I do the mistake in creating something using an alternative option?
So at this point, not yet, but it is functionality that we're looking to add soon, so that if you already have an existing template that you've been using for years that meets our criteria, you don't have to remake it. But at least in the first launch here, what you would want to go is you would want to start with an email ready template that has these functionalities baked in, and then you're going to want to save that as a template.
Yeah.
So let me add a title. And you can see here, I'll just scroll through this beautiful page we have going on. And I click on Save Page Template.
I have to say that it's good to see that there can be multiple sections as well, and you can have a section variants and all of that. So it's not just a bulk text. You can have multiple columns in section as well.
Exactly. Yeah, that was one of the things when we were looking at building these. We're like, gosh, we want to make them look so good on email, but not at the cost of making your websites look less dynamic. So we found a way to do that. So if I go over here, I can now see my saved template for demo. In the future, we are going to work on sorting these a little better and update the template picker. But for now, you can see when I click on it, I get that little mail icon. So that's going to tell me that this can be sent via email.
Yep.
So I go in and I create my post. And you can see that now I am locked in. So I've got my made for email web parts here. I've got my post and send up here. And this is ready to go and ready to be sent to email.
Yeah, this is actually really, really cool. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the people who are creating content and news articles might be even overwhelmed by the amount of web parts what we currently have. So having a subset of web parts just focused on the communications makes perfect sense. So really, really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I guess we tackled everything. We tackled the analytics, we tackled the template, we tackled the selection, saving us time. I guess we actually went through all of the things. What kind of on the page layout section, if you go back on that page, which we just were there.
Okay, this guy.
Do we still have exactly the same page layouts, the section layouts, or are there any limitations over there?
Oh yeah, great question. So if you click sections, you have all of the layouts. So I'll do an example here, right? I'll add, well, actually, I'll make it easier for myself. I'll add a section template and add it already with stuff.
Yep.
Let's see how quick this can do it. Stock images.
It's a great demo of the additional features as well. So
yeah. Let's just pre-fill all of these so you guys can see what happens. Stock images.
At some point, we'll have probably the AI generated images there as well, and all of that. We can imagine that's all good. Not promising anything, just to be clear, but
no promises. See if I can scroll. There's a cow in here I really like. Where'd he go?
And there we go.
Oh, this one. There we go. And to plug another feature, you can see when I put these images in the section templates, they lock to the size, so that you don't have to then use the templates to then go in and change things. And I'll go ahead and replace this image here as well. Guy getting a haircut. Amazing. So there's that. And we'll play around a little more. Let's go and let's change our background color. So now let me add a title. If I go over to post and send, we can see how this reflows.
Yeah.
So here we have the 3 columns, and then we end up stacking them. And basically it's like left to right order, keeping it there, but we can interpret any layout that you use here as something in this context.
Makes perfect sense. Looking really good. Really, really
Thank you.
Awesome.
One other thing I want to plug, and because this will be here in the future, but not in our first release, is we are working on getting this preview button. So this is sneak preview, literally at this point. And so when you're going and editing your page, you'll be able to go through and see what it's going to look like. So you don't have to go to the post and send immediately. We're still working on getting this exactly right. So for the first round of this feature, you are going to have to go to post and send to see what it looks like. But I just want to plug it so this video is durable moving forward.
Yeah, Absolutely, absolutely. And then I guess there's some of the future other investments in the toolbar as well, which we will not touch within this video. So but it's something which we already announced that it's coming, and it's understandable that we are coming and building those internally. Cool. This is really, really cool. And one thing what I wanted to actually ask, we actually touched this as we were prepping the video. Some of this technology will be used by the Viva Amplify as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, so here's the wonderful opportunity to plug our partner team here. So we've offered these templates to you, and we've made it so that you can go ahead and use them. But if you look at these analytics and you're like, gosh, I want more detail here. I want to know which of these are from email, what devices people are reading them on, and have greater control over your distributions, you're gonna want to look into Viva Amplify. So they are actually using the same templates and a similar tech to us to distribute. The one caveat is you can take it depending on what endpoint you're going to and make little edits. So you're going to start off on something that looks like a SharePoint page, and then you can send it to Outlook, and you can send it to Teams, and it's going to look good everywhere. So we have that capability here for you to send your news post to email, and it still shows up on your site. But if you're looking to really cater your distributions and really look at your reach, I would suggest looking into Amplify. So shameless plug for our partner team on this if you want more data.
Absolutely. That's really, really cool as well. Cool. This is awesome feature. Let's go back on the discussion mode in a bit, and we'll close up the video after that.
Sure.
Cool. Thank you, Sara, on that one. Really, really cool stuff. Now, you did mention that some of the stuff is still the first experiments, and you're getting feedback and all of that and adjusting. So that does imply that this is not the final implementation, right? So we're evolving that all the time.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we are constantly working on this as a feature crew. And it's hard to get to the point where you're like, yes, okay, at this point, it's ready to go. Because when you're so deep and passionate into working with a feature like this, you're like, you can always see the things that are going to be better. But at some point, we got to release it into the world and see what happens. So we do have some updates that we intend to release in the coming months to make it even better. And we're so excited to see the reaction once it's out in the world. And it's not just, I mean, we love it internally. It's super popular. But, we aren't the only customers of this.
Absolutely. And like we said in the start, it's actually kind of even awkward that the Microsoft culture is quite often email based. That's also because a lot of people are moving and working in multiple locations and have multiple devices. But the email is just one option to access the information. So the information is still in SharePoint. It's just being exposed in email, and you can click and access the SharePoint site and all of that. So this is not for driving the email consumption. It's making sure that wherever people are, they can access the same information.
Yep, that's a great point, because that's in previous conferences and stuff when we've talked to customers, they're like, aren't you trying to get people away from email? Why would you send this to them in the email? And we're like, yes, but we have to be realistic about meeting people where they are at with the information that's useful to them. And, if you go into your email today, at least if I go into mine, it's tons of newsletters and distributions and stuff to read. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not the biggest fan of email. If someone wants to get something from me, send me a message in Teams. But there's a cultural shift that's happening there. So we want to meet people where they're at and bring them to our sites rather than just being like, no, we're not going to support you there. And it's just not practical.
Absolutely. Rather than forcing the end users on doing something, let them learn to use the cloud and then transition forward. The forceful way of forcing people to do something is always not a good idea, because there's a counter reaction on it. So doing this way, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Sara. We did get a glimpse of the birds behind of you when we started recording as well. I think last time we had the one of the birds jumping in.
Let me see if I can come here. Okay.
There we go.
So this is a different bird. This is Sapphire. She's upset. I adopted her just a couple months ago. She's had a lot of homes, but she actually likes us, which she doesn't like a lot of people, apparently. So, she's doing well. She's growing her feathers back. She's a happy bird. So now there's a blue one.
Excellent. And it's good to have quality assurance watching on what you're doing, right? So just
Yeah,
double checking.
exactly.
Yeah.
Oh
We
yeah,
have few
yeah. They make
cats and
sure I'm
dogs doing
working.
exactly the same thing. Yes, exactly. So excellent, Sara. Really, really cool. Thank you for joining. Awesome feature. Really, really cool. And as I said, we're using this so much internally. People have been
Oh my
super
gosh.
excited on that. So it's and immediately when somebody else sends the news without this feature, it's like, why didn't you?
Why'd
that
you do
feature?
that? Yeah. If I open my inbox, it's just testing is so easy for this because I could just click right through and it's all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Anyway, thank you, Sara, for this one. We'll be back with new features, I'm sure, within the future. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Vesa.